All right then. Good afternoon. Sean has told me we could officially begin, and that's what rings a bell for us to start our meeting. The judge him and he goes, "We're 2 minutes late. What are we waiting on here?" And we're waiting for Shauna to give me the okay. But I do want to, on behalf of the commission, want to welcome each and every one of you here today. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday and upcoming holidays, whatever holiday that may be you celebrate. We're glad to have you here with us today. We have several joining us online today, and we're so appreciative to have you here. I want to welcome you to our December quarterly commission meeting. In your materials, you're going to find a copy of today's agenda. The minutes for the September meeting have also been added to your binder. If you get a chance, take a look at those. If you were to see or notice something that you think we need to correct or change, please let Shauna know, and we'll be glad to take care of that. You know, in September, Justice Lambert, our visionary and commissioner chair, was elected to serve as Chief Justice of the Kentucky Supreme Court. Such an amazing honor. Chief Justice-elect Lambert sends her regrets that she could not be here today, but on behalf of the commission, we want to congratulate her on this accomplishment. It truly is a huge accomplishment. She wants me to let everyone know her investiture will be on January the 7th, 2025 at 2:30 p.m. Details are being finalized as we speak, and she does want to remind everybody to please check your email, and hopefully those invitations will be going out shortly, and I know she would be extremely pleased to have you there to help her celebrate on that big day. She also wants me to stress, and I think each and everyone here that knows her knows this to be true, that she remains extremely committed to the work of the Kentucky Judicial Commission on mental health, and will continue to support this program as we move forward. A lot of that obviously will depend on the many duties that she picks up as Chief Justice, and I know those to be numerous. So we wish her well, and we also are so thankful we'll have her continued support. Along with those lines, Chief Justice-elect has chosen Justice Robert Connolly as her Deputy Chief Justice, and he will also be appointed as the chair of this commission beginning, I think, effective as of January. It is a pleasure to have Justice Connolly here with us today, and it will be a pleasure serving with him and working with him in the future. I've had the pleasure of working with Justice Connolly. I won't say how many years, but I think we started out as district judges together, circuit judges, and now we're at whatever level we may be. Having a tough time holding a job. They keep moving us along, but it is an honor to have him here with us.
Social promotions.
Promotions, that's correct. Justice Connolly, I have to be honest with you, and I agree, Justice Lambert and I talked about this, but I think you're going to find in this room some of the most committed people I've ever met and have ever worked with that come together to help change the way Kentucky responds to individuals with mental illness, substance use disorder, and intellectual development disabilities. We honestly look forward to you leading the way in 2025. And I think I know I speak on behalf of Chief Justice-elect and myself and the commission saying we welcome you aboard and we look forward to your guidance. And I know your dedication and commitment to this program. As we close out 2024, we have so much to be proud of. And before I get into some of those, I would like to ask, and I know he's a man of few words, I've worked with him too long, but before I go on, I'd like to ask Justice Connolly if you'd like to say a word or two before we go on. I'll pass that over to you, sir.
I won't say a lot, but I will say that when Justice Lambert started talking to me about the mental health, at first I thought this was an intervention. I thought, she was, but no. I know I've got big shoes to fill. I'll do my best to fill them. I probably won't be able to do the job that she has done, because I don't know that anybody could. But I'll do my best. I can guarantee you that. It's important to me. I was a district judge for 12 years and a circuit judge for, I can't remember if it was 14 or 16. It's one of those, but it's too many. And I've been on the Supreme Court for 4 years now. So I'll do my best. And I know we've got good people. I know some of you already, and I know you're committed to this, and I am too. So that's all I got to say.
Thanks, Justice Connell. As we close out 2024, we have so much to be proud of. And it's just such a major accomplishment this year, and we're so pleased with it. We look forward to advances in the coming year, but the Commission's first legislative package, House Bill 385, passed unanimously from both houses. And I can tell you, having the pleasure of working with our legislature, and I know some of our legislatures are with us today, that's a major accomplishment when you can get a bill with that type of support from our legislature, and we're truly appreciative of that. What we refer to as SES bill became effective on July the 15th, 2024. This is a transformative piece of legislation addressing two primary areas, including guardianship and competency. As many of you that had the opportunity to be with us during our September meeting, Dr. Slusher pointed out that SES law provides an equal system change, which is the overall goal of the Commission. I'm hopeful we will continue to see positive results from this work as the implementation of it goes forward and our courts and our advocates become more familiar with the changes to the legislation. In early 24, we received the formal report from our town hall meetings, our town hall listening tour, which included findings and recommendations in partnership with the Office of Statewide Programs at the AOC. We participated in 7 recovery-oriented systems of care summits with over 1,000 attendees, and were able to address some of the identified barriers from the town hall report and set the stage for the next project, community mapping. Kentucky through this commission, and this is such an amazing, and I'm so proud of this, is the first state to complete system mapping for juvenile justice, child welfare, and criminal justice at the statewide level. Through our work with the National Center for State Courts, we've created a local community mapping model that brings together key players to improve cross-system collaboration that reduce involvement in the justice system. And that's one of the main goals that we have here, I think, going into it, is to come up with programs that we can help people, not only to provide assistance to those members of the Commonwealth that are suffering, but it also, we find as we go that not every answer is the court system. There's got to be ways we work with individual. And I've been so pleased with some of the concepts and advancements we are making. So we hope to continue that, obviously. Jennifer Van Ord Hazard, the Behavioral Health Liaison for the Commission, is leading this initiative with assistance from staff within the Office of Statewide Programs at AOC, which have become trained facilitators. In your materials, we hope to provide with you, and keep in your notebooks, you'll find a summary of the community mapping events that have taken place thus far, which includes Pulaski, Rockcastle, Martin, Johnson, Lawrence counties, with Warren, Madison, and Clark counties being next to be mapped. I'm excited to announce that we have 2025, we haven't finished 24 yet, but we have 2025 almost full with booked with these mapping efforts. Each quarter, we will try to provide each and every one on the commission of update and fill in the counties as we travel throughout the state, basically offering local jurisdiction the opportunity. I stress this, and I've stressed it several times when I've had meetings with the judiciary. Um, often, and I'm speaking from personal experience as Justice Connolly stated, but after 30 years of serving on the bench, so often I truly believe that the movers in our communities can often be our judiciary. While sitting in the courtroom, we are to remain neutral and the best we can and decide cases as they're presented to us. There's nothing that says we cannot get out and be the one that brings these agencies together within our communities. And I think it's so important that for those of you, as you return to your communities, you also talk to your judges about their involvement and their support in these programs. But we're making a concerted effort when we meet collectively with our respective levels of the judiciary to encourage them to become actively involved. Each mapping you'll find is followed up with reports, which will be housed in the Commission's webpage. Speaking of our webpage, we want to give a special thank you to Jason McGinnis. I don't know if Jason is down here at the end. You changed. I'm used to him being to my right. Done messed up the seating arrangement here, but
My fault.
no. But we greatly appreciate the work that Jason's done with the commission, and we appreciate you with the website and the information provided for that. The AOC communications team will be working with commission staff to develop this. So if you have any ideas or anything that you think that you'd want to have included or placed on the webpage, please be sure to get that information or contact Shauna. As most of you have gathered by as many meetings you've been to, she never seeks credit, but I always like to heap that praise on her. I think one of the driving forces, in addition to Chief Justice Lambert, is sitting 2 seats to my right. She takes no praise for the work she does, but she does a wonderful job pulling all this together and making those of us that sit up here look good. But Shauna, thank you so much on behalf of the commission. Speaking of new seating arrangements up here, you probably recognize we have a new face up here sitting immediately to my left. It's my pleasure today to introduce Zach Ramsey as the Director of the Administrative Office of Courts. Formerly an associate partner at IBM Consulting, Director Ramsey led teams delivering technology solutions for healthcare programs at the state and local levels. His experience will be invaluable as the judicial branch implements a new case management system. And I can tell you right now, developing and implementing case management systems is a daunting task, and I applaud you and the administrative office of the courts for your work on that. Director Ramsey also served the Kentucky state government for 12 years, including as Assistant General Counsel and Director of the Medicaid Program Integrity Division. He comes to us with a wealth of experience, knowledge, and we welcome you, Director Ramsey, to the commission. And at this time, I would like to ask Director Ramsey if there's anything you'd like to add, or we'd love to have you introduce yourself to the group today.
Thank you, Chief Judge Thompson. And thank you and welcome everyone. I'm real excited about the opportunity to serve on this very important commission, one of the many new opportunities I'm getting in day 4 in my director chair. So if nothing else, today I'm getting the opportunity to meet so many of the names and faces and partners, not just for this commission and other work that we do. So if I haven't had a chance to communicate with you today going forward, if I haven't had a reason to seek you out yet, please come seek me out. And I'm looking forward to working with everyone as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize Senator Westerfield today. Senator Westerfield has been with the Kentucky legislature for 12 years and truly has been an advocate for Kentucky and serving as chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, a committee I think is extremely important. Co-chair of the Unified Juvenile Code Task Force and sponsor of Senate Bill 200, which brought the largest reform to Kentucky juvenile justice system in 30 years. His work is centered around reforms that advocated for improved outcomes for those we serve, and we're grateful that Senator Westerfield has decided to remain an active member of the commission as he moves into his private practice. Again, we can't thank Senator Westerfield enough for the work he's done in the legislature, and it is appreciated, and it is appreciated by this commission. At this time, we want to look at some legislative recommendations. And for 2025, as most of you already know, with a group this large and so many divergent interests, it's easy to get overwhelmed with proposals for laws that we would like to see enacted. But we found going into the 24 session and the 25 session, if we pare down and try to select, be it 1, 2, or whatever the case may be, laws that we would like to see enacted in the upcoming legislative session, and focusing our work on that. You'll find a quick reference sheet about the bill that we're going to be working with this year. The recommendation comes from the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Work Group with support from the DNA Work Group. The legislation is related to the rights of parents with disabilities and would amend KRS 199.471 to include disability as a reason for which an adoption petition cannot be denied. The fact that someone may well have a disability, I know in the past has weighed as a possible factor to deny an adoption, and this bill would hopefully bring changes to that. In addition, it would amend KRS 625.090, which is our termination statute in Kentucky, to include disability as a reason for which termination cannot solely be based, and to require reasonable efforts and accommodations tailored to a parent's disability. This is another area I can tell you as a former family law judge, very difficult when you had an individual that has a mental or a disability of some sort, and that through no fault of their own lack the capability or have the inability to provide for a child. That's very difficult. I can tell you as a judge, it had terminated those rights. And we look forward to working with the legislature as we go forward with this. Senator Storm will sponsor this year's bill. Bill folder has been opened and a drafter has been assigned. As we went into 2024, we are hopeful for another successful year, and we know that we'll have to lean on many of you. And I know last session we had several of you were called to testify before the legislature as experts, and I'm sure in this coming legislative session we will be doing the same. And if you see something or know something that you think that you have a particular specialty with, please let Shauna know. We like to have a list of those at any given time, because often those that testify the legislature will find you're called up very quickly, and sometimes it's short notice on those. So, but we do look forward to it. For questions or comments about anything going on with the legislation, please reach out to our commission staff attorney, Maria Macaluso. We announced before her position as our new staff attorney, and we're so glad to have her with us here. To complement the legislative package this year, I think most of you are going to find, I think mine's here, got it covered up. We have a gift for you. The Center for Accessible Living and the Avocado Press are pleased to provide each commission member with a copy of their book, A Celebration of Family Stories of Parents with Disabilities. As a disability resource center, they feel it's important for the commission to have all the information it can about parents with disabilities in order to protect their parental rights. They hope you enjoy this collection of parental stories, and note that the donation of the book was made possible from proceeds from the sale of previous books. And again, we want to thank them for their kind contribution to these books. And please, if you don't see one on your desk, let us know before you leave, and we'll make sure to get you a copy of that. Next on the agenda, we'll go to our committee and work group updates. As always, if you'll check your materials, you'll find the quarterly reports for all work groups. You also notice, and truthfully, it's probably, to me, it's a sad part. He was a colleague, co-worker from Eastern Kentucky, but you'll notice we have an empty chair amongst us today. The Honorable Judge Kevin Mullins was both a colleague and a friend to many in this room. And his absence here today is sad and difficult. He was a strong member of this commission, and as chair of the Treatment and Access Committee, he advocated to ensure that we were breaking down barriers to get services to those who needed them the most. And I have to be honest with you, and I'll speak as a personal friend, and Kevin not only walked the walk, but he talked the talk, but he walked the walk. He 24/7 lived and breathed treatment for individuals that were having these issues. And I'm proud to say in an adjoining county, Kevin had a program that is currently the model being used in a lot of our counties throughout the state. He pioneered local protocol that linked people to treatment and with other counties duplicating work, and had been able to help them more than 20,000 individuals access treatment, which is just an absolutely amazing number. We will miss his distinguishable voice and powerful advocacy here, but we promise to honor his memory in everything we do. And for most of you that know me, you know that I take my work very serious. I don't take myself serious sometimes, but I take my work very serious. But we used to joke, and I would joke with Kevin when we were doing these meetings or any judiciary meetings, when you knew you gave Kevin 5 minutes to speak, you knew to mark off 20 minutes on your, you need to mark off 20 minutes on your calendar. So I started off with saying I wanted to have a moment of silence for Kevin, and it's hard to say how long it'll last because I keep, but in all seriousness, Kevin will be missed, and legislature, our commission will greatly miss his services, his smile and warmth, and the fact that he cared so much about this project. So if you're with me, at least at this time, if you bow your head in a short moment of silence. With that being said, Judge Mullins' passing has left a vacancy on the commission structure. Instead of us just appointing someone to chair the Treatment and Access Committee, we would like to open the offer to anyone who may be interested in filling that spot. And you don't have to let us know today, but if you do have an interest in taking over as chair, please let us know. Reach out to Shauna, and we will greatly appreciate you doing that. But again, you don't have to let us know that today. But again, we started it by saying we appreciated Kevin's service to the commission, and he will be greatly missed. As for the Treatment and Access Committee, I'd like to turn it over to Crystal Adams, Chair of the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Work Group, to provide her report.
Good afternoon. We met twice since the last quarterly meeting in September and in October. We started off with recording two training sessions. So our first two have been completed, recorded, and sent for video editing. We have two additional trainings that are very near completion that we expect to be able to be submitted for approval shortly, and two others in development that we expect to be ready in the spring for the general work group trainings. We also did, we had representatives from the ARC come to discuss intellectual and developmental disabilities in the context of diversion programs and provide some helpful assistance to us from their experience. And we also reviewed a data report from the AOC Family and Juvenile Services on disability and special education. As previously discussed, we have done a lot of work and discussion in regards to the legislative recommendation that originated from our work group and how we can best assist with that moving forward next year and support that in whatever possible way we can, including identifying individuals who would be appropriate to provide their experience to the legislature. We have also continued to do our work with the Autism Self-Advocates for our Autism in the Courts group. I am very excited that we have two very specific trainings that the self-advocates have created that are very near completion, which is in addition to the other trainings we've talked about that we have almost completed. They are so amazing. I can't put it into words. I'm so excited to be able to get these ready to be recorded. And I think the impact that they're going to have for individuals working in the courts and for the individuals with autism themselves is going to really just make a huge difference, just these two initial trainings. Once we get those completed and ready, we're going to work on the framework for what else we feel is really appropriate for the Autism in the Courts group to really explore what other types of training and support that we can provide. So we're hoping to get that all together early next year, in addition to these final trainings to really kick off that initiative. And I'm very excited about that. We will continue over the next quarter to work on those trainings that we have in motion and the Autism in the Courts work. We will continue to support the legislative recommendation of the commission that came from our work group. And we are going to continue our work at looking at the data standards, what is collected across the board, what should be collected, so that we have a better understanding of how individuals with disabilities are impacted within the justice system to better have recommendations moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. I'll ask at this time, does anyone have any questions for Crystal and or her work group? All right, then. We'll now go to Judge Stephanie Burke to provide the update for the work responses work group.
Good afternoon. The Court Responses Work Group has met twice since our last meeting in September and October as well. In our first meeting, we met with the Interagency Advisory Group and agreed to serve as the advisory group to the Mental Health Diversion Initiative. And we also had a number of other presentations during our meetings. One was from AOC on Senate Bill 90, and subsequently from AOC on the new position of the Behavioral Health Liaison. And after that, we continued to discuss Casey's Law and the barriers to Casey's Law throughout the Commonwealth, particularly on how there is not uniformity among the jurisdictions and how petitions are being taken, how families are facing burdens and resources, particularly with lack of providers. So we discussed how we could best try to address those difficulties, and we'll keep doing that. We want to also explore barriers to individuals who have previously had mental health orders, which resulted in suspension of their driver's license. It seems like we're getting many inquiries about how individuals can get their license reinstated, and no one seems to know the answer. So we have sought input from the Department of Transportation, and we're going to investigate that further so that we can educate our courts and our judges on how to best be able to provide those answers when those come forward, and have that information in our clerk's office as well. And then we're also going to be discussing a statewide amnesty docket initiative among the different courts and how that would impact those suffering with substance use disorder and mental health issues, because we do believe that many of these people run into barriers with arrest and incarceration because of old warrants. And we have lots of community partners who would help get those people into court if just given the opportunity. And obviously, we would much rather get them to court without that having to be by way of arrest on those old warrants. Another thing that we'll be doing is we'll be looking at the trying to identify some priorities in education for our judges with our judicial colleges being at the end of the year. We have a number of months to do that, but we want to talk about what are the top issues that our judges need to be educated on in this arena, and so that we can make sure that there is consistency and uniformity in the courts. So that's what we're doing.
Does anyone have any questions for Judge Burke and or her report? All right then. And last, for treatment and access, we have Wes Butler, Chair for the Strengthening Communities Work Group. And is Wes joining us on, I think we have him on Zoom. There we go.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Judge. The Strengthening Communities Work Group has met 3 times since our last quarterly meeting. We are focusing on 2 particular support services areas, one for schools, particularly with justice-involved youth or youth who have parents that are justice-involved, and then also for jail supports, health and other supports for those that are incarcerated. Our September meeting involved a representative from the Division of Budgets and Financial Management to come in and talk about school perspectives on Medicaid providers and justice-involved youth. Back in October, we had a representative from the Kenton County Detention Center come in and talk about screenings, mental health assessments, and the coordination of services among that group. This has been an ongoing issue or ongoing topic of interest for our group in looking at enhancing jail-based services. We anticipate that with the pre-arrest and diversion work group and their survey, which I'm sure you'll hear about a little later on, we want to be able to collaborate with them a little bit and understand more about some of the obstacles to those types of services. And then finally, just last month, we met with, we had a representative from QRT National come back and provide us a bit more of an overview. It had been some time since the group had heard from QRT, I guess really since one of the very first meetings. And it was desired to have them come back and talk a little bit about more coordination of services among a variety of providers and communities to see where some of the obstacles are. Our current action items are really focused more on our exact work plan and trying to identify the objectives, obstacles, and potential solutions that we can offer. And there's continuing to be a lot of education around that. And then, of course, the jail survey and our participation in that, as we're hoping. Our next meeting, if you're interested, and we have an open meeting and invite and welcome everyone, is Monday, January 27th at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I always want to make sure that I give some recognition to huge support, Maria, Jennifer, Shauna, Wayne, very, very grateful for all that you do. On a personal note, Judge Thompson, appreciate your comments about Judge Mullins. He was always very, very kind to me and very supportive of the work that me and our work group was doing. And finally, just congratulations and welcome to Zach, a longtime friend. Glad to see you over there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Butler or his committee report? All right, then, with that, I look very quickly. I'm afraid to miss a hand. All right, then. We'll now move on to our Civil and Family Justice Committee, and we have Judge Foster Cutoff. And Judge, I think you have, 3 subcommittees you'll be introducing for us today.
Yes, Judge, I will. I don't have a whole lot to say as the committee chair. I have wonderful work group leaders who take care of all the heavy lifting. And I'm just here to introduce them and to thank them for all of their hard work. But first, on behalf of the committee and Vice Chair Chris Griffith and myself, I would like to thank Shauna and Maria and Jennifer and all the staff. They really keep the trains running. and make sure that we're where we're supposed to be when we're supposed to be there. So Shauna is a taskmaster, but she does it with a smile. So we just say, yes, ma'am. And it's just easier that way. So thank you, Shauna, for being you. We appreciate it. Happy holidays to everybody. Wanted to say that. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and whatever you celebrate. Enjoy it with your family and your friends. Take your 2 days off for Christmas and your 2 days off for New Year's and enjoy all that time. I just want to say our committee met on November 22nd, and we had our quarterly committee meeting after all the work groups had met. Jennifer did a wonderful presentation on community mapping, kind of outlined that for us and let us know where that's going and what opportunities were coming up with community mapping if certain counties wanted to do that, told us how to get involved there. I'm not going to jump into the work group stuff. I'm going to let the work group chairs do that. Like I said, they do a wonderful job. They hold lots of meetings and they take care of a lot of our business. So we're going to start with our first work group lead, which would be Judge Denise Brown from Jefferson County. She chairs our domestic violence work group. So Judge Brown.
Okay, now it's on. Good afternoon, everyone. We have met a couple of times since our last quarterly meeting, and we actually had a meeting this morning where we did a domestic violence simulation designed to help us understand what it's like to be in the shoes of a survivor or someone who is actively making those decisions on a regular basis. It was very, very eye-opening and provided us with a lot of practical tips that we can apply no matter the role that we have in the system. We have a couple of subgroups. Our first subgroup is focused on the bench cards and standardized training development. It's in its beginning efforts, and we are now reviewing our existing materials for judges and discussing the related training that we think might be appropriate for clerks, attorneys, and other court personnel as each topic is addressed. We anticipate exploring existing trainings to ensure that we're not replicating work or wasting resources, and then further identify information needed or in need of revision. Additionally, this subgroup has also identified the need to enhance the trainings on batterer intervention programs. And lastly, the group has created a structured outline to identify the progress the group has completed and a timeline for getting those goals accomplished. The subgroup is also dedicated to promoting domestic violence advocacy in schools. And we have continued our discussions with potential legislative recommendations related to the data collection on teen violence, social service research in schools, and domestic violence advocacy within the schools. We've been focused on inviting experts to help us explore the legislative initiatives, and the Center for Safe Schools has presented to the group and discussed other states' efforts on enhancing domestic violence advocacy in school. And that's it.
Does anybody have any questions for Judge Brown?
Oh, wait a minute. Turn over the page. Wait a minute, is that us? I think it is. The multidisciplinary team subgroup. We have a lot of subgroups on domestic violence. We're exploring existing resources and establishing connections for collaborative efforts among various disciplinary groups relevant to this subgroup. And the short word on that is that we're trying to create a database of updated resources that would be across the state that everybody would have an opportunity to look at. Basically, we're trying to make sure that we don't recreate something that's already out there, because the problem with databases of this type is that you don't have somebody to update it consistently. So we're trying to go with one that is consistently updated and that will allow new members or people who are interested in becoming providers to go out and put their own information in it and then responsible for updating it. So we'll get back to you all on how that's going.
Thank you, Judge Brown. Their work group does very, very important work. Sadly, they have to do that very important work because domestic violence just isn't stopping. My jail call Thanksgiving morning 2/3 of the cases on my docket or my jail call were assault fourth, assault second, domestic violence, or violations of EPO. It was a lot, and it was a holiday, so it was kind of depressing. So we appreciate all the work you're doing on that topic. Thank you very much. The next work group lead that I'm going to introduce is Judge Marcus Vanover with the Dependency, Neglect, and Abuse Work Group. Judge.
Thank you. The DNA work group last met on November 7th. And we've had 4 separate priority areas that we've been working on during the time the work group's been in existence. The first of these is we call enhancing collaboration and communication with system partners. This work group has been focusing on creating a series of trainings called Relationships Matters Part 2. A few years ago during COVID, there was a Relationships Matters series that was done in partnership between the cabinet and the courts to try to train on various issues that were coming up commonly in our courts that we were having trouble with. But now the Relationships Matter 2 series trainings are focusing more on mental health issues that are within the courts and try to expand beyond the cabinet and courts into other systems partners, providers and things that we see in our courts. We've identified several topics that are going to be done in this series of trainings: compassion fatigue, moral injury, secondary trauma, PTSD, and mindfulness. There'll be a training on professionalism, another one on MOUD, SUD, and MAT, a 4th one on ACEs and resiliency, and then finally intellectual disabilities and high acuity youth are the 5 main topics they're going to be focusing on starting now. At this point, the work group has continued to meet and they're identifying presenters for each topic. If you are interested in helping present on any of those topics or know someone who would be good for assisting with or providing information for those, please reach out to us. We would be glad to include them in our work group and have their contributions for those trainings. The second priority area that we've been working on is as we've been developing a bench card for understanding the role of treatment providers, including the limitations of different types of providers and what their licensings allow, and to address associated barriers. We developed a bench card that we thought was going to be a quick reference guide. It became large enough that we needed a table of contents for our bench card. But it does have a lot of good information in there that is going to kind of bridge the gap, especially for our courts to explain what different types of mental health providers there are and what their roles are and what the counseling services they provide are and the limitations to that. Additionally, it's going to discuss specific types of evaluations and counseling and assessments and the differences between those. One of the things that we've noticed is common is when evaluations or assessments are ordered, often the provider, there's different terminology being used in different courts, so the providers are having difficulty understanding exactly what the court is seeking. So this is to try to kind of uniformly present that language so that we're using the same language to request the same type of evaluations, not only to tell the court what they can do, but also to tell the providers what is expected of them to be provided. Additionally, there's information in there about addressing the barriers for having treatment providers come to court and testify, such as scheduling and cost and things of that nature that are included within this bench card. It's getting very close to completion. It has been gone through the final review within our work group and has now been sent to AOC's Legal and Creative Services Department for fine tuning of any legal issues that may be associated with it and to format it in a manner so that it's easy to follow and easy to provide. So we're hoping to have that out before the next commission meeting. The third priority area that we have is developing a best practices guide for handling cases within DNA courts. This would be from not only the court perspective, but the cabinet perspective and for the attorney's perspectives to kind of say, these are the types, so these are the ways that we should be handling these ideally. The National Council for Juvenile and Family Court Judges has an enhanced resource guidelines that has been used in service for years. And we've tried to kind of adopt some of those format so that we can tailor it to our Kentucky courts. And the cabinet and our AOC Family and Juvenile Services department have been working very closely with this work group and committee and have been very helpful in getting this guideline finished. I think we're also getting very close to finalizing that. It was a little bit larger, so we've extended the comment period within our work group a little bit of time to get that finalized. So hopefully by our next meeting, we will be ready to finally approve the work group and also get that to AOC Legal and Creative Services for finalization. The fourth priority area that we've been doing is we have been trying to work with AOC in the statewide dependency, neglect, and abuse attorney training programs that has been around for a long time. We've been trying to incorporate more than just the legal standpoints of the attorney training into also focusing more on the child development and the mental health aspects of that, and provide additional training resources for our attorneys that are dealing with these families in court to make them more prepared for the people that they're going to be encountering and going to be representing. The trainings have been occurring. There was one on November 8th in Madisonville, the 18th here in Frankfort, and the 20th in Boyd County. This was rolling out the new trainings. There will be an additional series of trainings in the spring. The panelists, I think the one new training that's been widely accepted was a panel of folks with lived experience has been well received, and trying to get more of the participants or the litigants in court and get their perspectives into the attorneys and their training, so they kind of get a different perspective on what they're seeing. So we're very excited about the new training, and I think that's going to be a continuing and evolving process. And I think that's all I have.
Does anyone have any questions for Judge Vanover? Judge, thank you for your work with your work group. Is it just me or is the air conditioning on and it's 26 degrees out? I'm going to have to go get some of that stuff I bought earlier, Shauna, and warm myself up from the inside. But anyway. All right. Our last work group is led by Stacy Tapke. She's the Kenton County Attorney. So if you get caught speeding through there, you need to call her. She'll take care of that somehow, right, Stacy? Yeah.
Sure.
Sure. That will be a fine and points
That's
against
right.
your license. All right. So she chairs the guardianship and committee work groups. That was one work group at one point in time, but now there is a separate guardianship and a separate commitment work group. So Ms. Tapke, please take it away.
Thank you. I'll start with the guardianship recap. One of the things that we had that was very helpful was we had a presentation from the Department of Transportation's Medical Review Board personnel. They were able to explain to us how they receive orders of disability and how that impacts driver's licenses, especially between a full guardianship and a limited guardianship, and the process for restoring those rights whenever that person is no longer under that disability. So I don't know if Judge Burke mentioned some questions about that. So hopefully they can get in contact with them and have a presentation as well, because it was very helpful. Another thing that our work group did and worked with AOC on was launching the new 798, AOC Form 798. This is an order that the judges can now use that as a form to restore rights. They get these really nice orders saying that they're under a disability, but there had not been a formal order AOC form when they got their rights restored. So I know that that form has already been used in Kenton County a couple of times, as well as Jefferson County. We also, let's see, we also have been talking about trying to communicate to our judiciary. There's some issues that are happening when people are getting emergency orders in particular, where check boxes aren't checked off, and it's causing issues at hospitals and banks. So we're going to try to work on that to make sure that the guardians have the authorities that they need to be able to act on behalf of the person under guardianship. Just kind of a note here that on October 17th, I was invited to present to the Judiciary Committee on guardianships in general. And I was able to incorporate a few points from the working group of what the guardianship work group had been looking at. No particular recommendations for legislation or anything like that, just a general overview. As far as the commitment work group is concerned, one issue that we've been talking about was an issue that happened in Jefferson County, and what we can do to improve mental inquest transport orders whenever you are talking about maybe city to city and different jurisdictions, and how we can make sure that we have good communication to get people picked up when they need mental health treatment. We had a great presentation from representatives of NAMI and the Mental Health America, making sure that we're aware of all the resources that are available for families and others as they navigate the mental health and commitment process. We're continuing to work on, and this will take us a while, educational materials geared towards law enforcement, families, and then users of the court system of exactly how the commitment involuntary hospitalization process works, because there is a great deal of confusion. So we'll continue to work on that. And we took the opportunity on both groups to review our work lists and update those. And thanks to Jennifer and Maria and Shauna for all the help on that. And in the new year, we're going to be going back a little bit to the old way, where we're going to have one monthly meeting, and we're going to kind of alternate the theme of the meeting between the commitment and the guardianship. We're finding that most of the attendees of both groups are the same. So that will allow us to keep moving forward on that with those efforts. And that's all I have for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tapke. Anybody have any questions for her? If not, Judge, we will pass the microphone on behalf of the Civil and Family Justice Committee. Thank you.
Judge Cutoff, thank you, and members of your respective committees for the excellent work they're doing out there. Lastly, we have the Criminal Justice Committee with Judge John Tackett providing the update. And I know we have several subcommittees under that. Judge Tackett.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather. And again, I'm here substituting as the vice chair for Judge Colmer, who could not be here today and sends her regrets. So you got me as again, it's not quite as good, but I'll try my best. Also, I want to just thank Chief Judge Thompson about his words about Judge Mullins. I've been thinking about him quite a bit today, and I have a real strong visual image of him. He'd be sitting over there scribbling out what he was going to say about 10 minutes before he would say it. And he would probably be more eloquent than 90% of us in this room as he communicated his passion for this project and this court and treatment. So I'll miss him as a friend, and also miss his incredible intellect and passion. We've just suffered a grievous loss with the passing of Judge Mullins. So just want to say that. And I'll never forget to thank Shauna and Jen and Maria for the glue work that they've done. They just superhuman effort to keep us on track and plugging along at tackling these difficult issues. So I want to thank them. They don't get enough praise. I will mention that the attendance has been a little bit lower for some of our committee meetings. We are open to anyone, and it probably is attributable. This is time of the year. I know that my calendar is very, very full with Christmas gifts to be bought and stuff like that. So, but come next year, I'm hoping that we can get more engagement. So if you are interested, please, open seats at these tables. And I know that we've talked about this before. Judge Cutoff and I both have heavy dockets, and I know all of the district court judges in here. Looking at my friend Judge Murphy, I know we can't always make it to what we need to make it to because we've got obligations, but just invite you if you can make it to some of these meetings to do your best to do so. Again, I will also be a poor substitute because Dr. Slusher is not here. So I'm going to read her report, as I affectionately call her, Dr. K. She wants to let everyone know that feel free to let everyone know that the wait list for KCPC is lower than ever, with only 113 people in the queue. And she says yes with multiple S's, which I take it as communicating her delight and enthusiasm as to the work that we are doing. I count yes with 6 S's here. So good job, everybody. If we can only get up to 7, so anyway. Per her report also, she wanted to know, and the report's here in your material, but she wants you to know that the jail-based program in Louisville has served 45 KCPC and Central State patients. And then hot off the presses, she says that DBHDID received notice of awards for 2 grants last week through TTI funds at, and this is going to be a long acronym, NASMHPD. One is for us to begin at state implementation team, thank you, for forensic ACT teams in Kentucky. We were very strategic in how we wrote the grant application. This will work on building out more Intercept Zero services to support individuals and community and to build more evidence-based services at the intersection of justice and mental health. And she promises I will provide more info at our next meeting, but this is a huge win for us. So again, Dr. K, just knocking it out of the park. She also, in the report here, talks about the implementation of SES laws. They met on November the 1st, and her action items include AOC forms for competency hearing orders, AOC flexible orders form related to HB 385, formulate messaging education materials for rescinding orders, develop training materials for a variety of audiences. And as I tell my diversion court, you may ask me a question, but I am not a psychiatrist, so I'm probably sure to give you a wrong answer. So, but I'm sure Dr. Slusher will be available if you want to ask her questions as to what she's up to. So that's Dr. Slusher's report. I'm going to turn it over to Judge Jones, who's got the juvenile justice report.
I want to start off, there's several people I want to thank. One is Dr. Slusher for the Kentucky law update presented in Owensboro and Paducah. And one of the cases involved KCPC and 202C. And she was just available to take any calls I had, to answer any questions, and to give me spur of the moment data. So just her making herself available, making KCPC available and accessible to judges and their questions at the spur of the moment. She is a wonder and a delight to work with. I also want to say that the Juvenile Justice Work Group met on October 16th. We have divided ourselves into 2 sub-work groups, one on legislative priorities and one on our mapping priorities. But had some things going on this summer and fall. And so I'm very grateful to the people who took the lead on those 2 work groups, Dr. Fink and Dr. Robbins. And I am also extremely grateful to Maria and Shauna and Jennifer and Michelle and all the people at AOC for seeing that when I was unavailable, that the work went on, and for all the people on those committees to continue to do the work. So I kind of feel like an imposter here presenting the report on everybody else's hard work. But our legislative group is currently examining juvenile competency standards and the minimum age of criminal responsibility. This quarter, the subgroup has engaged with experts in these fields and invited them to present on topics. There's been a data presentation from the Administrative Office of the Courts, and I want to thank Damon Preston also for showing up and presenting data that the Department of Public Advocacy had on these matters. And moving forward, the subgroup anticipates a presentation from Dr. Kavanaugh to discuss adolescent brain development and how that might help us come up with a legislative recommendation regarding minimum age of criminal responsibility. The mapping subgroup, again, focuses on priorities that were identified during our 2023 Juvenile Justice System Mapping event. Our key goals in that subgroup involve expanding crisis stabilization units and identifying opportunities for statewide pro-social initiatives and providing training for community-based service providers. The subgroup had a presentation from the University of Connecticut on their mobile response and stabilization services, and they discussed also the applicability to Kentucky. And they are also discussing the number one barrier that I think every group encounters over and over again is transportation and how to meet those transportation gaps when you're trying to get somebody in for crisis care. They shared resources, they shared knowledge, and they're trying to expand that and get that information out throughout the state. So the group is continuing to explore pro-social efforts and recommendations from SEAC. And again, over the next quarter, we're going to continue meeting, collecting data and research on legislative initiatives in other states regarding the minimum age of criminal responsibility. We're going to work on finalizing our recommendations for statewide pro-social efforts and then draft recommendations regarding improvements for crisis stabilization for youth. So thank you all.
Any questions for Judge Jones? Okay. Next up is the pre-arrest diversion report, and that would be by Steve Shannon, who's the new chair of this subcommittee. He's the executive director of KARP. Unfortunately, Mr. Shannon couldn't be here today, so I'm going to kind of summarize his report. This is one that they've met 3 times on October the 7th, November the 4th, and December the 2nd. And I was able to actually attend a couple of these meetings. They're still working to explore the role of police social workers in Kentucky and drafting white papers advocating for their integration alongside jail services in the state. I think the main thrust of this subcommittee is to do this jail survey, a comprehensive jail survey, and plan to review that and provide feedback during their future meetings. And then they've also had a presentation recently from the Department of Medicaid Services on crisis continuum models and a presentation from River Valley Behavioral Health on crisis collaboration with residential crisis programs. So, excuse me. So they're still working on completing that police social worker white paper, and they're going to be mapping a jail types and services throughout a statewide jail survey in the future. So unfortunately, Steve couldn't be here. And again, you find me as a poor substitute. So you could ask me some questions, but I probably won't have the best answers for you. I'm going to pass it along to Erica Hargis, and she's going to be telling us about reentry. Erica.
So the reentry work group, we have met twice as well. We are still narrowing our focus. We are the newest group, if you will recall, and so we're a little bit behind the rest of you all. We have finally got through our entire work plan, and that was many presentations and many conversations so that we could kind of narrow our focus. We are looking at resources around SMI upon release, housing gaps that we're all aware of, and access to our medical records. Those are some of the top focuses that we've determined. Our most recent meeting, we heard from Dr. Rebecca Asher. She is a doctor that works with mental health clients in community supervision. And she specifically works with that reentry population. And so she had a great just her work experience was specific with the clients that we're trying to target. And so being able to hear some of the gaps and barriers that she's experienced over the last year with working with this population was invaluable to us, and it has kind of helped us to guide our plan a little bit. So now we're at the point where we're breaking into some subgroups, and we're going to go down a few different paths and do some more research. I heard someone earlier say, being careful not to duplicate and being aware of everything that exists. I think that's where we're at right now. We want to make sure that what we're looking at, that it doesn't already exist, or if, so that we can come alongside it and not be duplicative in our work. We are very interested in the results of the jail survey. So we're waiting for our partner group to get those results to kind of dictate where we go. I think that once we learn from that, it might really help us move into our next chapter and get some tangible results from our work group. And so we're at a great place now where we've done a lot of education so that all the work groups members are kind of on the same page. And we've heard from a lot of people, and I think we're ready to start getting some results. And one thing we don't have a problem with is attendance. So we do have a pretty big group, but we invite everyone. So we'll take more people too.
Thank you, Erica. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Hargis? Okay, Chief, that's our reports.
Oh, thank you very much. Amazing amount of work. Just when I read over the notes and the materials that Sean has collected and put in your notebooks, it's an amazing amount. And I emphasize that, of work and accomplishments that have been made in just the short time this commission's been together. And we're so appreciative of that. On behalf of our current chair, Chief Justice-elect Lambert, our incoming chair, Justice Connolly, and myself, we want to thank each and every one of you that serves on this committee, the work group chairs, your leadership, and to the commission. What you've done in such a short period of time is absolutely amazing. It's true with this organization as any organization I've ever served in. It's the people that are overworked that are always willing to step up and take on more work. And I know when I look around this room, I've got a room full of type A personalities. I have no doubt with that, but thank you so much. Can't believe what has been accomplished, and I get so excited when I think about what will be accomplished. I can tell you that it's my 30th year on the bench. I've seen more work in the last year to year and a half to helping, be it from guardianships, disabilities, that I've always thought we fell so short within our court system. And it's so refreshing to see that. And you are the ones that are to be thanked for that. And we greatly appreciate. Again, we're so grateful to each of our members and to the commission for your willingness to join us at the forefront of Kentucky's work in addressing mental illness, substance use disorders, and intellectual and developmental disabilities at the intersection of the judicial system. And as we thank each and every one of you for being here and the work you've done, I think I would be remiss if I didn't thank the administrative office of courts. And I'm not saying that because we have a new director here with us today, but when you consider each and every report we've heard today, almost every one of you referred back to someone or something in AOC that's being done. I think it's amazing when you consider basically the administrative court. I always hate to say the term, they manage the judiciary. That's not a good term, but that's like herding cats. I know that would be, but long and short, they're there and they work for the judges. And basically what we do is we go in the courtroom and we try to fairly deal with the cases that come before us. But, I think as judges, we all accepted a long time ago, and the administrative office of the court accepted, we have to be involved in these things. If we have to step up and take the leadership and getting some of these things done for the citizens of the Commonwealth. And I applaud the administrative office of the courts for the fact that they have stepped up, sometimes in areas I'm not so sure that would normally be thought of as part of the court system, and they have stepped up and they've done such an amazing job of that. And I want to thank you, and I know you'll continue that, Director Ramsey, as you come in, Jason, the work you've done. But I really think it needs to be said, you and the staff of the administrative office of the court never cease to amaze me. And it really is. As much grief as I like to give everybody from time to time, I want you to know your work is greatly appreciated. You know, I especially want to thank, and I started off this today by saying I wanted to thank and congratulate Chief Justice-elect Lambert. I've known Justice Lambert back on her days when we were both family law judges together. And I can tell you, you'll not find a harder working judge. And I know she's done an amazing job as a justice. And I know that now that will be stepping to the forefront of the court system for the Commonwealth of Kentucky, she'll continue to do an excellent job. Not only will she continue to do an excellent job, but I think we are blessed with this commission to have an advocate sitting in that position with the Supreme Court. And with that having been said, I also want to give thanks to Justice Conley for stepping up to take over the big shoes he has to fill and coming into this commission, but I've known Justice Conley long enough to know he too will do a wonderful job. Want to also give a special thanks to Judge Denise Brown, the Domestic Violence Work Group, and I probably mispronounced that, VAWA or VAWA grant for providing the In Her Shoes simulation prior to the commission meeting. I've had the opportunity to go through that a couple times, and it always is so informative because often as judges, clerks, and those that work in the court system, we approach it with it's a busy docket, and how do we get through this busy docket? And I think as judges, we often realize the amazing and important impact we have on people's lives all the time. And I think programs like this really bring it to the forefront. And I appreciate so much for you guys putting the presentation on today for us.
Even better if you learn how to do it. That's the first time I did it, I didn't do it right.
I have to admit, two of us were kind of lost with it. But I want to also give special thanks to Doctors Cooley, Jasinski, and Woods for allowing us to tour the Eastern State Hospital and the Empath program. I know several of you were able to come to that, and I have to tell you, I was very lucky to be able to attend that session. I would encourage you, if there's future sessions, if you get a chance, I will guarantee you my takeaway from that session was what a wonderful job they're doing. And not only that, it totally struck down my image of what the psychiatric facility looked like at Kentucky State Hospital. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility with caring individuals that are doing a wonderful job. And I think they've just made marvelous advances with the program. If you get an opportunity, I know they'd love to have you come up and give you a tour of the program. We would encourage you to do that. And in fact, I think we'll be scheduling a second tour after the first of the year. And if you're interested in attending that, please let Shauna know and keep that in mind. I will tell you that you will find in your handout for today and for your folder, but it's a list of the scheduled meetings for the 2025 commission meeting dates. Please mark those on your calendars. For those of you that don't look that far ahead with your busy schedules, our next meeting will be March the 7th, 2025. And on behalf of all of us today, we want to thank you for being here. We want to thank you again for all your support that you provide the commission. I also want to let everyone know that Rabbi Litvin will have a short, inclusive menorah ceremony immediately following the commission meeting in I think it's room A at this time, in room A, and all are welcome to join him. We hope everyone has safe travels returning home today. We hope everyone has a happy, safe holiday. And before we close, I always like to leave on the note, if anyone has any questions or any suggestions or direction you think we ought to be going, because one of the wonderful things about this commission is we are perpetually evolving, and it comes with the ability of all of us coming here. I think it was described as a safe environment for all of us to come in here and share our thoughts, because every one of us, we either approach it from the judiciary, our mental health, whatever our background is, but we all come at it from a little bit different background, but we all come at it with the same thought: the system can be better, and we can help make it better. But if you have any suggestions you'd like to share with us today, we'd love to hear them. If it's something you think of, Shauna or any of us, please send us an email or note, because I promise you, we're not locked on anything other than making the judicial system and the process better in the state of Kentucky. And we appreciate you so much. But if you have any questions or comments today, if we have, yes, sir.
We did a good job.
No, just thank you all for your time. I really love what we do here. If you notice, I deliberately didn't ask any questions. I don't go to all of them, but I try to get to the work groups and do that. And I really appreciate your just allow me to ask my questions there and things like that regarding veterans questions. So I really thank you all for that. Did want to make one announcement if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
We have on Monday at the Rotunda, there is a Wreath Across America kickoff at 12. It's going to be a short event. KDVA is running it along with the Veterans ERG and the American and Asian Pacific Islander ERG. If anybody wanted to come by, it's short, nice, reflective event for those, got the holiday season, and then just remember those who are laid to rest. So thank you.
Thank you. I've been asked to remind everyone to please leave your name tags and your badges on the desk, and they will be recycled, I'm assuming, for our next meeting. So, but with that being said, I hope everyone has a safe trip home and a wonderful holiday. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.